So the CEO said some very important stuff that I'm going to share in this video. Also, we're going to talk about Deliveries, which came out yesterday, weekly insurance registrations, and also we're going to talk about why NIO stock did not see the boost that we were expecting from the biggest news ever yesterday, which was the Changan partnership for battery swap. So first of all, let's talk about that. Apparently, a lot of people had a lot of expectations on this, and a lot of questions still remain. Like, how will this benefit NIO? How is this going to look like? How many car models will there be, etc., etc.? And apparently, according to rumors, the first car model that will be developed by Changan Motors that will be able to do battery swap is out in 2025. So there's still a while before that happens, and it's very unclear how much of an impact that deal will bring to NIO. But obviously, I think the big takeaway is that it's a very important first step. It validifies NIO's trajectory. And then we gotta talk about some of the stuff that NIO's CEO said. So first of all, NIO CEO said that the automobile race is like a marathon. However, we need to run every step very carefully and very well. And they have essentially shifted from a 5-year time frame for their planning down to a 2-year time frame for everything, investment duration, R&D research duration, and product planning, and to get things planned out for the next 2 years and get those done correctly. And the reasoning behind that is, according to him, he said, the competition in the market is very fierce, and it's very important that they shift the duration now a little bit shorter so that they can better speed up things and get things done immediately. He also said some stuff about the Alps Subbrand. All right, so maybe it's a sub-brand, maybe it's not a sub-brand, but he said some very interesting things. First of all, he said, okay, on the main NIO brand, that there won't be a MPV, but an MPV will come out not with the Gen 2 NT 2.0 platform, but Gen 3 NT 3.0 platform. There will definitely be an MPV, but it will take some time. He also said that 800 volt and battery swap is not exclusive. A lot of people are saying that 800 volt is going to kill off battery swap, all that kind of stuff. But he made it very clear that NIO's next vehicles will be capable of charging at very high speeds, 800 volts. It's not choose one or the other. It's that NIO will be able to have both. And that's a very important takeaway that he had. And then on the Alps sub-brand, and he said, with that sub-brand, it's going to be exactly targeting whichever vehicle that sells well. They're going to look at the market, whichever vehicle sells well, they're going to go after that vehicle, no matter what type it is, and go after that. And he said, this is what he said, they're going to rip off their shirt, okay, he said that in Chinese, and go straight at it face to face. So it's going to be straight up competition. And also, he said he's willing to do a lot of fighting himself against other brands with the sub-brand when time comes and when he needs to defend his company against competitors, which is what you're seeing a lot of CEOs do nowadays with some of the other brands, CEOs trash talking other brands, and etc. etc. Most famously, recently, Xpeng CEO said Huawei's AEB is trash. Huawei said Xpeng is trash. Lots of back and forth. And obviously, NIO hasn't really gotten themselves involved in any sort of trash talking, but he said he's willing to do that with the sub-brand to whatever extent possible. So he's going to go out with the sub-brand, all right? So that's very, very nice. I mean, this is what we've been missing. We've been missing this kind of fiery competition. When other people's cars aren't as good as yours, you got to let people know. You got to talk some trash. Very important. Now on to Deliveries. Weekly registrations, 3,700. A far cry from what we had like a month ago in the 4,000s. A big increase from the week before, right? Last week we only had like 2,900. So, I mean, this is pretty good. But a lot of you guys in my previous video have said that this is disappointing results. Yes, look, right now the incentives just aren't there. All right, there aren't that many incentives, and NIO has said that they have the potential to release more incentives, but they want to save that for the future. Quite recently, there has been a lot of fear amongst buyers that NIO would potentially not be able to survive, and hence people were hesitant about placing their orders. However, this Changan deal with NIO about battery swap should signify how important NIO is to the whole entire EV industry, and also that NIO is probably not going to go bankrupt, and hopefully reassure consumers that purchasing a NIO is going to be fine. Having that said, a lot of people are still focusing on some of the minor facts, the specs. They're focusing way too much on specs, like 800-volt charging. Because of that, you don't really need battery swap. A lot of people are arguing about that, which I think is just absurd. No matter how fast you charge, you still got to get out of the car. You still got to scan the QR code. You still got to face the weather. You still got to wait for the charging speed to ramp up. You still have to share the charging output with other cars around you. You're never going to get the advertised speed, or rarely will you get the advertised speed. Whereas battery swap is pretty much guaranteed to be 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes per swap. But people don't know about that. They just look at things way too simply. Now, NIO stock is still near 52-week lows. We're not seeing any sort of a very significant bounce or jump that we're hoping for. Part of that could be because everybody's so focused on the massive losses that NIO is incurring. And a lot of people have capitulated, selling their NIO stock, saying that NIO has no path to profitability. Look, like NIO CEO has said, this whole entire automobile race is like a marathon. It's not a short 100-meter dash. It takes a lot of time to build out infrastructure, to build out brand awareness, to get the customers, and to gain market share, which NIO already has a decent amount. And I think to achieve profitability, we need to look at the end of this whole entire marathon race. Right now, we're only about a third through, I think, in my opinion. We gotta take at least another 4 or 5 years before I think NIO can get profitable. Minimum, okay? Minimum. Because at the end of the day, NIO is still spending a lot of money on growth, expansion, and R&D. If they shut all these off, of course NIO will be profitable, but that just means that the future of the company is going to be very uncertain. And right now, the competitiveness of the market just means everybody's fighting for market share. Everybody's seeing who can come out with the car with the cheapest price, but with the best specs. And they're all fighting for this whole entire market. It's crazy. So NIO has a plan to not only survive, but to thrive as well. But that does mean it's going to take a lot more time. All right, it's not going to happen immediately. You can't expect NIO to all of a sudden be profitable in the next 1 or 2 years. No, you need the Subbrand rollout, and you need to wait until the Subbrand has stabilized and wait until that has been selling well before you can judge. I think NIO is doing all the right things, but it's just the investors are capitulating and giving up. That could mean that bottom of NIO stock is not in. We could be heading down even more, but in my opinion, not financial advice, it would be like a big discount, great opportunity for guys like me to buy more NIO stock.